The closer we get to the NFL trade deadline, the more frustrating it is that Ryan Poles isn't doing anything to address two of the Chicago Bears' biggest weaknesses on the defensive line and at cornerback.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1, and you can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. On the show today, I want to look at this very real problem with the Chicago Bears pass rush that has been a problem for a while and then only gets worse with injuries to Dominique Robinson and Shamar Turner, but even the healthy guys that are still ready to roll, including Austin Booker, are not good enough. We'll look at where Dayo Odeyingbo has particularly underwhelmed as the Bears' prized free agent pass rush signing, and why it makes it all the more important that Ryan Poles does something at this stage, even while we watch other teams make trades that you sure wish the Bears would have gotten in on. The same thing is true at cornerback, where the injuries keep mounting, and the Bears seem to be satisfied just calling up, career backups off of special teams, guys that don't even have much NFL regular season experience. It just none of it all feels good enough. And I want to look at what some of the different options might be out there for Ryan Poles with this Bears roster. But I think it's important that we first start by really making it clear just how much this Bears pass rush has struggled. It really seemed to hit new lows against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday in particular, even, before and I guess during, as these injuries started to pop up here. But you look at that game in particular, they were only able to get a couple of pressures consistently on Tyler Huntley. And you look at from an individual pass rusher standpoint, the Bears pass rush win rate by player against the Ravens. Grady Jarrett had a decent amount, but he had that pressure up the middle that led to a cleanup sack. Montez Sweat had a sack. They were able to get some pressure going in the game, but Gervon Dexter gets a 0.0% pass rush win rate. Dayo Odeyingbo gets a 0.0% pass rush win rate. Shamar Turner, before he got hurt, 0.0 pass rush win rate. The group as a whole is just not good enough. And I'll say too, Grady Jarrett hadn't been good enough early in the season. I think there's been some improvement since he's gotten a little bit healthier. And Sweat all along, I think, has been, I'll say, slightly underwhelming, but not abysmal. Just less than you want, but not horrible is kind of the category I'd put him in. You got bigger fish to fry, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on moving forward. But the bigger fish to fry here is Dayo Odeyingbo. Ryan Poles is highly paid pass rushing free agent signing. They gave him $18 million a year on a contract to come in and be that true running mate to Montez Sweat, to do a combination of, one, be able to take advantage of whatever attention Montez Sweat always commands to his side, but then also be able to take some of that pressure off of Montez Sweat and, be that bookend pair that makes it harder for opposing offensive lines to dictate where exactly they're supposed to, align their pass protection help, because how can you block both of these guys? Plus, Odeyingbo has some positional versatility. He's young. You feel like the upside is in front of him, and we just haven't seen that come together yet at all. In fact, Odeyingbo's been worse than pretty much all the other big-name free agent pass rushers that were available this offseason, right? Not only is he underwhelming in general, but the other options next to him seem significantly better. The Bears gave him the big contract that now makes him the 23rd highest paid edge rusher in the NFL this season based on average annual salary. So over the course of the contract, he gets $18 million a year. That per year average right now puts him at 23rd in the NFL. But when you look at the PFF's pass rush win rate, he ranks 85th in the NFL. Not even top 64. That's a like 2 starters on every team, 2 edge rushing starters would be 64 guys. Like he's below every other team's equivalent of starters there. He's got a 9.0 pass rush win rate this season, outside of the top 80 in the NFL. It's just not nearly anywhere close to good enough, especially for the money the Bears are paying him. And of course, some of Dayo Odeyingbo's value is in run defense, and that's not captured by pass rush win rates. But you're paying him big bucks for his pass rushing, right? I mean, you don't spend, run defenders don't get top dollar. Pass rushers get top dollar. But like, it's pretty tough when, Dominique Robinson has a 15.5% pass rush win rate to Dayo Odeyingbo's 9%. It's 50%, more than 50% better is Dominique Robinson. Dominique Robinson ranks 34th in the NFL in pass rush win rate this season. And that's not to say Dominique Robinson has been dominant by any means, but clearly even your backup edge rusher has been winning his pass rush rates at a significantly better rate than your starter there. And you compare it to some of the other free agents. We talked about Josh Sweat being available from the Eagles. Gets slightly more than Odeyingbo, but not a ton. And he's at 17%. He's top 25 in pass rush win rate. Even an older, aging Khalil Mack available this offseason. We weren't sure exactly how realistic it would be to bring him back, but he's still 15.7%. He ranks 32nd. Like, you're seeing all of these other pass rushers, these top free agent pass rushers, not just like other pass rushers, hypothetical, Micah Parsons trade or Trey Hendrickson trade, but like guys who hit the open market and were available on the street. Like, just about the only other veteran pass rusher who's disappointed as much as Odeyingbo this year that was a free agent was DeMarcus Lawrence, coming over from the Dallas Cowboys to the Seattle Seahawks. And I can raise a hand and say I would have liked DeMarcus Lawrence, in part because he was going to be a lot cheaper and is a lot cheaper than Dayo Odeyingbo. But I can admit, hey, he is not playing nearly as well as I thought he would be. He's also like 8 years older than Dayo Odeyingbo on the tail end of his career, and he's had some significant injuries that he's been overcoming here. And he's like right there producing at about the same level as Dayo Odeyingbo. It's just not good enough from him. And don't get me wrong, it's not good enough from Montez Sweat either, but it's especially bad from Odeyingbo, and he has all the makings right now of a free agent bust. Now, he's got the sort of the caveat here of, he is young, and this was signing him to be more of a longer term investment. He just turned 26 at the end of September, and so you like to think that he is still developing and still growing and is not at his peak yet, that his best football is still in front of him, but like, he's not playing as well this year as he did the year before, or 2 years before that, when he had 8 sacks. He's got 1 this season and has not been affecting the quarterback nearly as much as the Bears need him to. And it's not as though he's getting double teamed at some crazy rate. You look at like next gen stats. They measure pressure and pass rush win rate a little bit different than PFF does, so the rankings don't align perfectly. But in terms of like how much these guys are getting double teamed, Sweat and Odeyingbo are both below average in how often they're getting double teamed. They're on the lower end of the spectrum there, and yet their pass rush win rates are also near the bottom of the NFL among, starting caliber edge rushers in football. So you're just really consistently not seeing good edge rush, pass rush, and you can throw in the defensive tackles there too. Like, Gervon Dexter needs to give you a little bit more. Grady Jarrett needs to give you a lot more. You haven't really had anybody else in the rotation there that offers you much pass rushing upside either, and so you're left with a team that gave Tyler Huntley a bunch of clean pockets to slice and dice their defense that was missing 5 cornerbacks off the top of their depth chart. Like, that's the bad formula there, and it's why Ryan Poles absolutely has to do something, needs to do more than just activate Austin Booker off of injured reserve, which he did. Great. Glad to have him back, but what else? Like, if you're going to be serious about improving this defense and winning games this season, you got to do something. Whether that's the NFL trade deadline coming up next week and options out there, or guys off of other players, other teams' practice squads, or other veteran free agents, the Bears have some options. And so far, it seems like Ryan Poles is sitting on his hands a little bit here, especially as we see another team make a trade for a pass rusher that would have been a nice move to see the Bears go after. So we'll take a look at where it feels like Ryan Poles' answers to this have been insufficient so far, and what else might still be out there next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Because we know, from footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. And Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. You can really feel that Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Nappa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like the players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. The Locked On Bears podcast is also brought to you by Gametime. The NFL season is in full swing, and there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues and login screens and prices that jump up with checkout, it's really frustrating, but that's why I use Gametime. I've got the app on my phone because it gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee, where you always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price, with the fees included. So the price you see is the price you pay. I've used it to go to Bears games, and basketball games, concerts, comedy shows, theater events, you name it. They've got it all, and I've had a smooth process every single time. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. The Bears have to do something to improve this pass rush, and the efforts we've seen so far from Ryan Poles have not been anywhere close to enough. And I realize there's a little bit of danger in doing this podcast now, knowing that the Bears put Shamar Turner on injured reserve, and then activated Austin Booker. So they do have one open roster spot still, as I record this late Tuesday night to come out first thing Wednesday morning, of course. And so, there's always a chance that in, the morning hours of Wednesday, they make some move for some pass rusher, and this sounds a little bit moot, but I still think it's important to identify that, hey, there are options available, and you can even hold whatever move. If they do make a move, you can hold that up to, whatever potential alternatives were out there. But I think there's a certain frustration here of not doing anything whatsoever, especially while you watch other teams make moves. Now, there was a cornerback trade we'll talk about in a little bit, but then on Tuesday, the New England Patriots traded defensive end Keon White to the 49ers, essentially in exchange for a late-round pick swap. I think the Patriots gave up a 7th-round pick with Keon White to get a 6th-round pick back. It's as close to as little compensation as you can possibly use in a trade for someone who has been a starter in the past in the Patriots defense, was a backup this season after a coaching regime change, but he had 5 sacks last season in 2024. I'm not here to say that had the Bears traded for Keon White, he would have solved all of their problems and come in and had 5 sacks right away and been this absolute game changer. No, there's a reason why he's kind of fallen out of favor in New England. But, he was a former 2nd-round pick, and more than anything, he represents the 49ers. They're trying. They're seeing whatever they can get to upgrade their pass rush and say, hey, he's not going to fix it, but it'll help. It's another little bit of something more towards improving that group that for them has been mostly injury-based. For the Bears, it's like these guys aren't good enough. Odengbo hasn't been good enough. And I suppose now, I guess, Dominic Robinson and Shamar Turner are banged up, but the Bears just straight up moved on from Tano Passanio and said he's not good enough. They just cut him and took him off the practice squad too. He's just not even around the team anymore. He's on another team's practice squad already. And so I would have been fully on board with a late round pick swap for Keon White. I understand that he's coming down towards the end of his rookie contract, and there's not, it's more of a short-term investment, but I'm totally willing to swap late-round draft picks even for short-term investments here. I think making your pass rush better this season matters enough, and even if you're worried about, okay, maybe Keon White's, not going to be around super, super long-term. He's still under contract for 2026, but, at least you get the chance to evaluate him. If he's a player that you liked enough to potentially trade for, then you might be interested in him as a potential free agent, but you could at least have him in your building first before. But you still got a year and a half of Keon White. He's built like a Dennis Allen defensive end, 6'5", 285, sort of big, oversized run stuffer who can also get after the quarterback a little bit and represents definitely an upgrade over everything you have on your bench. He's a 2nd-round pick, Austin Booker was a 5th-round pick. Like, Keion White's a better player, has proven at the NFL level so far to be a better player than Austin Booker. We'll see Booker coming off injury. Can he flash a little bit more? But like, it's just not enough. Even just Austin Booker alone is not enough right now. It's because your other defensive end is Daniel Hardy. Like, you want to have 4 guys that you can rotate in there and use, and that's not going to be the case right now. Booker should be your 4. You need a better 3. Like, that's where things are right now. And someone like Keion White via trade makes a lot of sense to me as someone who should have been in the discussions. And maybe we'll find out that the Bears were in negotiations too. But again, I still feel like a 6th, 7th round pick swap wouldn't be that hard to beat in a trade. I mean, again, it's easy to like armchair general manager and say this one move. But I think the bigger thing for me is like, it's not just that one move, right? It's not like, oh, it was Keion White or bust here. Like, it just feels like a continued lack of like not doing anything. Like the Bears brought in some free agents for a workout on Tuesday. And you look at the list of tryout players, it's 4 offensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and 1 defensive end. Jeremiah Martin, former Washington Husky, who had been on the Packers practice squad and a few other places. And I should mention, too, I probably should have mentioned it earlier, the Bears did add a defensive end to their practice squad, Jonathan Garvin. He was a former 7th-round pick by the Green Bay Packers back in 2020. He has 1.5 career sacks. And that came in 2021, 4 seasons ago. He has spent the last 3 seasons, in the the UFL with the Birmingham Stallions. And then he was on the 49ers practice squad last season and got cut from them during training camp this year. But like, this is a football nobody. I mean, this is not a solution. This is a camp body that's being brought into your practice squad. And I worry that that's going to be the solution here because like, you don't have any other options. It's him or Jamri Chroma, your own camp body, who's essentially your version of Jonathan Garvin. And even the player they worked out, Jeremiah Martin, that we just mentioned there briefly, undrafted free agent, also on the Birmingham Stallions of the UFL and the Arlington Renegades. He was on the Saints preseason team this season, but he has no NFL regular season experience. Like, that seems to be the players Ryan Poles is just, sifting around on the bottom of the barrel there for whatever's got a pulse there that isn't anywhere close to like your best options. It just feels like such a oversight or negligence or, I don't think he's I don't think he's like oblivious. I just think it's a lack of accepting how much of a problem the pass rush is. I think if you could ask Ryan Poles, he'd say, well, we're being patient with Odengbo. We want to be patient with Austin Booker. We want to give these guys playing time to see what they can do. But like along the way, you're losing to the Baltimore Ravens in some part, not all, but in some part because you can't get a pass rush here. Like at the end of the day, you can play long-term development if you want, but like there's more. They got to start winning some football games. I mean, I know they were winning 4 in a row, but like you got to start doing everything you can to win football games. And none of this would be jeopardizing your long-term future. Like I get, you didn't want to give up a bunch of draft picks for Micah Parsons. Fair. And maybe the Cowboys wouldn't trade him for you anyway. You don't want to give up a bunch of draft picks and money for Trey Hendrickson. I'm totally fine with like not doing the humongous splash move. But like we talked about yesterday, there are guys on other teams' practice squads. Isaiah Foskey with the Bengals, their practice squad was a Dennis Allen 2nd-round pick a few years ago. Not a hero who's going to come in and fix everything, but effort and like shows you that he's trying to improve the pass rush. Or Julian Okwara, the former Lions draft pick. I think he's on the Browns practice squad. Like these are guys who have performed at the NFL level before, who are not great, but it's better than undrafted free agents and 7th-round picks like Jonathan Garvin and Jeremiah Martin that just aren't. These are not NFL caliber defensive linemen, and I'm worried that Ryan Poles is going to promote somebody from the practice squad and have Austin Booker and say good enough, and the Bears are really going to have a hard time getting a pass rush going against the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's going to keep them from playing up to the standard that we want from their defense, especially with all the injuries you have in the cornerback room, where it's hard to cover when you don't have a good pass rush, and it's hard to cover when you've got 3 backups playing all 3 positions in your cornerback room. Another spot that the Bears just refuse to absolutely address in any way, shape, or form, and another spot where other teams are making really reasonable trades for veteran players that could help the Bears team, and there's other guys out there on other teams' practice squads that could help the Bears team, and so far, Ryan Poles isn't doing anything. So we'll take a look at the cornerback spot. The need's a little more obvious there, but what some of the options are for Chicago to try and make an upgrade next on Locked On Bears.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
So the Bears' cornerback room is in some ways almost needier than the pass rush room, although I just think part of the difference is the cornerback room is pretty easily explained by injuries. The other one is just, not good enough play from the players that you need to be better. And yet they're similarly baffling in terms of the lack of action from Poles in this regard. And I'm willing to have some sort of, I don't know, it's not quite patience, it's not quite benefit of the doubt to say that, like, okay, before Stevenson got banged up and before Kyler Gordon just went back on the injured reserve, you were getting by okay with Nahshon Wright as one of your corners and then Gordon back in the slot, Stevenson on the outside and your safeties. Like, that secondary was good enough. Like, if Nahshon Wright is your injury replacement option out there and you're one kind of weak link in the secondary, you can live with that. They found ways to live with that and perform, good enough, all things considered. But now that Gordon's back on IR, right, not just missing a game or two, but a minimum of 4 games with the soft tissue stuff, and Tyreek Stevenson is missing what's going to be multiple, I assume is going to be multiple games, given that he didn't practice at all last week. So, like, it wasn't like he was close at all to playing against the Ravens. So I assume it's going to be tough sledding to get him back on the field against the Bengals, but maybe that's too pessimistic of a view. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what the medical situation is there. But, like, now that you're missing Gordon for another 4 weeks, and you might miss Stevenson for potentially multiple weeks, it feels like you got to do something now. Like, it felt like they needed to do something weeks ago, but, like, especially right now. And in some ways, like, especially because the pass rush isn't any good and you're not addressing the pass rush. Like, it feels like if you addressed the pass rush a little bit, you could say, okay, maybe that's going to help the secondary a little bit. So maybe, I could understand not doing one if you did the other, but not doing either, like, makes both worse. And that's the real frustrating part here, because you look at this Bears secondary as it stands right now. You got Jalen Jones playing one cornerback spot, Nahshon Wright on the other one, and then Nick McLeod in the slot. And then your only healthy backup on the 53 right now is Josh Blackwell, who also pretty much just plays the slot. They promoted Dallas Flowers from the practice squad at the last game to give them some reps. He played a little bit of special teams and he could play on the outside a little bit, but Dallas Flowers does not have, like, significant regular season NFL experience. Like, he has played 24 games across 5 seasons, had a couple of starts early on with the Colts in his second season, but, like, this is not a starting caliber player or somebody who, belongs in a significant rotation in your cornerback room. They also added a rookie, Dante Manning, to the practice squad a little while ago, and, like, but he's an undrafted rookie free agent out of Oregon who was with the Falcons for all of the offseason. Like, those are not solutions at the cornerback spot, and it feels like they need to do something more, especially when, again, you see a trade between other teams that you think, oh, maybe Chicago could have used them, and the price tag wasn't bad at all. The Rams trade for cornerback Roger McCreary from the Tennessee Titans, essentially swapping McCreary and a 6th round pick for a 5th round pick from the Rams there. And That's a little bit more compensation than what we talked about with Keon White. But like Roger McCreary is a better player than Keon White. Like he is a starting caliber NFL slot cornerback. And it's not like he has 50 interceptions or anything, but like he's been a really good player for them. Like a solid starting player who will be a real upgrade for the Los Angeles Rams. And okay, so with McCreary, I can understand, given that Kyler Gordon will be back in 4 weeks, maybe you don't have to make a trade for a slot cornerback. I would argue that you could trade for him and still put Kyler Gordon back on the outside and then have McCreary in the slot and have the best possible Bears secondary. But I'll grant you that maybe you could argue McCreary's not the best fit. He's going to be a free agent this offseason. Although I think same conversation like with Keon White, where it's like you get a good look at him on your team and to then decide whether you might want to re-sign him after you trade essentially a late round pick swap for him. I still think I'm usually team, hey, go for the upgrade when the cost is really low, especially a veteran player that's pretty good. You know, that would have been my preference. But like, okay, maybe he's not the perfect fit, but there's so many other options, not even on the trade market, just like practice squad free agents that you could sign to your team right now without having to give up any draft picks to do so. Like, how about a cornerback who was with the Bears during the preseason, Trey Flowers, the other Flowers, who the Bears had signed at the start of training camp when Jalen Johnson was hurt. He's with the team the whole time. Obviously, like, didn't win the positional battle, but that was when you had other healthy players there. Like, yeah, he might have been the loser of that battle, but bring him back. Like, now you need him because at least he knows the defense, can plug and play right in, and has veteran experience. Like, I think he offers you more than Dallas Flowers does right now, or an undrafted rookie from Oregon on your practice squad. Like, he's out there on the Lions practice squad. Go bring back Trey Flowers for a couple of weeks, like, until you get Tyreek Stevenson back healthy. That would make a ton of sense to me. Or other guys with starting experience, like Dane Jackson is on the Buffalo Bills practice squad. He has been a starting cornerback for the Buffalo Bills for multiple seasons. I know I think he left for a year when he was with the Panthers last year, and I think was hurt a little bit in that, but he was a starter for the Bills for a couple seasons, had a couple interceptions for them. Now he's back with them on this year's practice squad. He's 28. He's a plug and play starting outside cornerback. Like, go get him. Go put, like, he's certainly, like, I'm not saying that Flowers or Dane Jackson or any of these guys are going to be like, you know, your long-term starters, but they're better than Nick McLeod and Jalen Jones and maybe even Nashawn Wright. You know, but like the guys the Bears are having to throw in here, there are better options than the guys that you're starting each and every week. Former Green Bay Packers starter Corey Ballantyne is on the Dallas Cowboys practice squad right now. He had spent time with Ben Johnson on the Lions in 2021. Like, there's familiarity there. Or another former Lions cornerback, Amani Oruye, was a 5th-round pick for the Lions, started games for them. He's on the Ravens practice squad right now. It feels so negligent when there are options out there that offer easy to acquire, cheap, no trade required upgrades over the backups that you have on the roster right now. And okay, you could say, well, you sign a guy for another team's practice squad. Is he going to be ready to play next week against the Bengals? Is 5 days enough time? Maybe not, but get somebody in the building. Like, get them learning so that they can turn and start soon, because Kyler Gordon's not going to be back next week. Tyreek Stevenson, we'll see how soon he's going to be back. Like, these guys are out. And even when Gordon and Stevenson are out, heaven forbid this player's an upgrade over Nashawn Wright. Oh no, what are you going to do? You have another good cornerback you have to start. Oh no, you have to bench Nashawn Wright. That's terrible. Would hate to see that happen. Like, come on. There's no good reason not to sign a cornerback when you have so many injuries in that spot. And there's not much of a good reason to not sign a pass rusher either. And there's definitely no excuse to not address either position in some way, shape, or form. Ryan Poles is hurting Dennis Allen's defense, and Dennis Allen should be putting his foot down, honestly, and saying, give me more. We need more right now. Like, Dennis Allen's not going to make excuses publicly, but behind closed doors, you got to be saying, hey, can we do something here? Because I think it could make a world of difference. Not solve all the Bears' defensive problems and make them a top 5 group right away, but like, improve a weakness seems like basic thing you'd want to do to build out your roster. If the Bears do make any trade deadline moves or big free agent acquisitions, you can be sure we'll break it down for you right here on the Locked On Bears podcast. So make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're looking for a second listen today, be sure to go check out one of our other Locked On Podcast Network pods for any of your other favorite teams. Locked On Bulls, Locked On Cubs, Locked On White Sox, Locked On Blackhawks, Locked On Illini, college sports across the country, or even outside of the Chicagoland area. We've got you covered with your team every day, all of your teams every single day. Just make sure you're coming back tomorrow. Make Locked On Bears your first listen once again for our crossover Thursday episode with our friends from Locked On Bengals. And of course, you're always going to get another opportunity to bear down.